Hello foliage family, my name is Romani, the mother of many leafy boys, and today I want to look through all the different things that I use in my collection to treat pests. Before we actually get into the video, please make sure that you do all the YouTubey things, like the video, subscribe if you want to see more from my channel. Just as a disclaimer as well, I should mention that some of the treatments that I go through today may not be the best way of treating the pests. There's always many different ways that we treat pests in our collection. These are just the ways that have worked for me personally. Alright, so I think the way that I want to break this down is sort of going through pest by pest and the way that I treat them, showing you the products here, and then actually showing you how I use them on the plants and the sort of process that I go through. So first step always is to separate. The second step that I'll go to is to immediately take the plants that I think have been infected over to the shower and I wash their leaves. I do try and wait until it's watering day to do this part of the pest treatment so that when I'm washing down the leaves and water is getting into the soil, I'm not at risk of overwatering the plant, because in the past when I have tried to wash the leaves down when they weren't really ready to be watered, I have actually just given the plant root rot, which is not great because your plant is already struggling because it has a pest on it, and now you're making it struggle with overwatering and it doesn't know what to do or how to deal with the situation. So yeah, most of the time when I realize that a plant has pests, it's when I'm watering them. So that works out really well because I can just take it to the shower. Sometimes I notice the pests and I've already watered the plant recently. If that's the case, then I will try and wash it down without getting the soil in any way. Say this plant has pests on it, I'll tilt the plant to the side and I'll just wash the leaves, and I'll make sure that I don't get any water on the soil if I can avoid it, just so that I don't risk making this life harder for the plant than it already is with pests on it. Sometimes just simply washing the leaves and keeping it separate from the rest of the collection is actually enough. If it was only a few Spidermites or a few Thrips, that may be everything that you really need to do to prevent that from spreading in your collection. And in the past, when I had less plants, that was pretty much all of the pest care treatment I really had to do, was just separating them, giving them a bit of a wash, making sure that I keep up with washing the plant for a while until I notice that there is no more Spidermites or Thrips or whatever it is coming back into the collection. As time has gone on, obviously the pests have become a little bit more aggressive in my collection, and that doesn't exactly work. It's a good first step, and it's definitely my first step every single time without a doubt when I find a pest. All right, let's move on to more specific pest treatment. So the first one that I want to talk about is thrips. Here is an example of what thrips look like, and here is an example of what thrip damage can look like. So if you haven't seen thrips, maybe you're seeing this kind of damage on your plant. Now for me, quite honestly, thrips are the scariest pest that I've gotten in my collection. I just struggle so hard to get rid of these in the past. They are really aggressive, I find, and I think they really damage new growth the most. With Spidermites, I often find that they go for the oldest growth in my experience, which I kind of prefer that it goes for the old growth and not the newest growth. But with thrips, so often I find it in the new leaf. So I'll unfurl the new leaf because it's just not unfurling on its own, or it's starting to die or to yellow before it's even unfurled. Like, what is going on? And you open it up, peel open that leaf, and you find those tiny little white rice looking things, these tiny little white flecks. And sometimes, if you're really unlucky, you'll find an adult thrip, which looks like this. And if I find an adult thrip, it means that they've laid their eggs or more of their little thrips all through the plant. And sometimes, from what I understand, they even can like bury their eggs inside of the leaf. or lay their eggs like in the leaf. Sometimes I actually just chop off the leaf. There are some birds just going at it outside. I think the rain has stopped, so they're having like a little dance party outside. Australia. Yeah, sometimes you might have to sacrifice a really nice leaf or the new growth because thrips have decided to claim it as their own and make it their home. Always check the new growth, and even if all the leaves look like they don't have pests anymore, if you have a plant that has active growth and it has had thrips, I always wait for that leaf to fully unfurl before I introduce it into the collection, because it's more than likely that the pests are in that new leaf and you won't see a reoccurrence of the pest until that leaf is unfurled. Oh my God. Never have they been this loud before. I have to go, like, what are they doing? It's a bunch of noisy miners. You can understand how they get their name, and they're playing on the tree out front together. There's like a bunch of them all flying around on the tree together. Let's go have a look. These are the culprits here. All of these guys are playing in the tree out front of my house. They do not like that I've disturbed them now. But these are the very, very loud culprits. Okay, I feel really bad now because I went out there and they like all flew away. Well, they didn't fly very far. They ended up over on the power line, but yeah, I think they're not making a lot of noise now because I have disturbed them and ruined their day. But I really can't complain. Like, I have noticed how many birds we had around here, so I bought myself a bird feeder a couple of weeks ago, and I really want to get a bird bath as well. So I'm fully encouraging birds to be here. So it's my fault if there are birds in the background of my video. What were we talking about? Thrips? Yes. Okay. After I have found thrips and we've washed it down, the next thing that I go in with is some sort of like neem oil spray. You can definitely mix up your own neem oil spray and add like horticultural soap or something like that into the mix as well. I just use this brand because it's all pre-mixed for me. So this one currently is my favorite. It's the Orchid Protect, and I use it on things that aren't orchids as well. It just smells really, really great. Like, I love the smell of this one. And if you're someone who struggles with the smell of neem oil, which I don't, but my partner hates the smell of neem oil, just absolutely hates it. So if I use these, he tends to be a little bit less bothered when I'm doing my pest treatments because they smell really nice, especially this one. So they're both essentially made up of the same things. They have things in them like liquid vermicast and worm juice, which is really great for your plants to help them absorb some nutrients through the leaves, which plants really do love, absorbing nutrients through their leaves. It also has things to create sort of a leaf shine, like vegetable oils. And of course, the neem oil, which is one of the most important elements. This one smells a little bit more lavendery and florally, just floral. A bit more floral, that's right. And this one smells a little bit more like lemon myrtle. The neem oil inside of it is what is the actual pest repellent in this case. So you could just skip the fruity extras and go and make yourself a neem oil spray. You can get neem oil drops from places like Bunnings, and then you can mix it in with water and, you know, insecticidal soap, or even just soap itself that's non-scented, and you can put that on your plants. That works fine. I used to do the same, but again, my partner had an issue with the smell, which is why I started getting things like this, just because it made it a little bit easier. And it's also pre-mixed for me, and I'm really bad with measurements. So anything that is pre-mixed is fabulous because I am not going to measure it out properly for sure. The next step that I go through is just to wash down the leaves and then spray them thoroughly on both sides and wipe it down with the spray. There are really two different options that you can use when it comes to wiping down your leaves. A little bit more environmentally friendly option is, of course, to get something like a microfiber glove. I get these from Planty Peeps and they're really comfy. You can spray down the plant and then wipe each of the leaves with the glove. Make sure that you've sprayed it thoroughly. You can even spray directly onto the glove like I'm doing here. And then you can just simply rub the leaves with your fingers. You can see how shiny that leaf now looks now that it's been sprayed. So you can go about it that way. If you're just doing some plant care in general and it's not for pests, this is probably the way that I'd go about it. Spray the glove so that it's got the neem oil on it and gently go through and rub all of the leaves just so that they are cleaned. Cleaning also just helps the leaves breathe because it has less dust on it. The only issue with this is I can't go and then use this same glove on the next plant unless it's been washed in hot water to make sure that it's killed any bugs that have gotten into the fabric. So you can just go chuck them in the wash, and if you're just cleaning one plant or a bunch of plants that all have the same pest, then it's fine. But especially if it's a really big plant and I'm drenching it down and I want to know that I've gotten the pests off, then I will grab myself just a bit of paper towel and I will saturate the paper towel until it is fully saturated, and then I will go through and I'll wipe those leaves down. If there was actually a dead pest on that leaf, you will then see a little mark on your white paper. You might see like a little bit of a red mark, especially if it is Spidermites. They tend to leave behind what almost looks like blood. It's kind of creepy. But if you wipe it down and it had pests and you see like little streaks of red, it means that you've probably picked up some Spidermites or some Thrips or a pest on the leaves, and you can sort of see how much you're getting rid of and see how bad your problem is based on the white cloth. You could also just probably use white microfibers. That would probably work really well. I don't have any white microfibers, but I like to use this because at the end of the day, you can chuck it away in the bin, get rid of it completely out of the house, and make sure that if there's anything still living on this, that it is not going to spread amongst your collection. But again, it is not very environmentally friendly. So it is just an option, and I'm going to keep this because I'm going to use it to wipe down some of my plants later anyway. After I've wiped the leaves down with the neem oil, the final step that I find to be one of the, most effective processes when it comes to getting rid of thrips is using this. So this is called Bug Killa. So it does ask to wear rubber gloves when you are actually touching the product, but I'm going to make sure that I'm not touching it today just while I'm showing you it. But it is granules. I'm pretty liberal with how much I use on my plants. I don't exactly measure too much, but I will put, about a tablespoon of the granules into my plant pot, maybe a few more tablespoons. If it's quite a big plant or if it actively has a lot of thrips on it, I'll put less on the plants that are just around it. But I'll essentially just sprinkle it onto the soil of the plants and then water it in so that it drinks it all up. This stuff essentially doesn't have any smell to it, which is quite nice and interesting considering it's quite a heavy duty product. One thing that I would say is that I would not be putting this on any of my plants outside. The reason being for that is that it's quite harmful to just your natural environment, and definitely not something that I suggest that you use if you have little kids in your household or pets, or even your inside areas open to the outside quite a lot, because again, it will kill more than just thrips. Essentially, it goes after anything that is like a sap-sucking bug. So you can use it again for things like aphids, lace bugs, mealybugs, scale. It works really good for scale, but I find most effective for thrips, which isn't actually listed on here, but it is genuinely the game changer when it came to getting rid of thrips in my collection. So this is what I use, but again, it's an insecticide, so it's not always the healthiest for the planet. It's also not the healthiest for your plant. Insecticides and things like that, I believe, do have some side effects on your soil health and your plant's health long term. But if you're having a really bad issue in your collection, it might just be what you need to knock that pest out of your collection for a while so you can refresh your plants. Instead of using things like the insecticide or the sprays for all of the plant pests that I'm going to talk about today, there is also a more natural option, which would include predatory mites. For thrips, this would be probably your best kind of predatory mite to get for your collection. I often use a company called Bugs for Bugs, and they come in either bottles or slow release sachets. The slow released sachets are my favorite because you can just hang them over the stem of a plant or over the edge of your pot, and it will just slowly release some more predatory mites into your collection over time. There's some food inside of here for them, so if there is a low number of pests in your collection, they can still survive for a longer period of time. The only issue with these is you can't use your neem oil sprays at the same time, and you obviously can't use things like your insecticides. This is going to kill these, and this is also going to kill these, and the other stuff that I'm going to mention today is also going to kill these. So if you go with this option, the only other thing that you can really do is wipe down your leaves with water, and I would suggest wiping them down and cleaning the leaves thoroughly before entering these into the collection, simply because if you wipe the plant leaves down after they're in their collection, there's a chance that you're going to be wiping these away as well, and you're going to be, you know, killing the things that are meant to be helping out in your collection. So these are definitely a more hands-off solution. But if you have a really strong bout of spider mites or thrips in your collection, these do a really good job for the most part, but sometimes you need something extra. Like, I'm fully aware that there are times where it is just so insurmountable. It is just such a big problem in your collection. You've got so many plants that the thought of having to wipe down every single leaf of every single plant is just overwhelming. I only use these on my outdoor plants, just because that's you're adding things into the environment that are going to kill good pests as well. So we have so many bees, and we have so many beautiful butterflies in our local area, and caterpillars, which can actually be a really big issue with my outdoor plants. I currently have a deliciosa that is in my front yard that is just stems because caterpillars have eaten every single centimeter of that plant. It is just gone, but it will regrow, and that's kind of nature. And if I want the beautiful butterflies, I also have to have the mean caterpillars that eat all of my plants. I had a caterpillar make its way into my collection. I had to remove it and take it back outside because it had eaten all the way through one of my alocasias. And again, at the end of the day, we don't want those pests in our collection and eating our very expensive plants, or the plants that we really care about. But sometimes you have to make some sacrifices with some of your outdoor plants. And yeah, please don't use a lot of these if you have outdoor plants, because they can very easily kill bees, and they can very easily kill butterflies, and all of those are really important pollinators in the world. Always read the instructions on the label first and do a little bit of research before you use any products yourself. You've got to be responsible with like the pest treatments that you're using. The great thing about like using predatory mites is once they enter into your collection, there is also a chance that they're just going to continue living amongst your collection and helping to prevent pests from breaking out. These ones in particular are really small, so you're not going to see them that often. You have to really be looking for them to actually see them amongst your collection. They move a lot faster than thrips will and that spider mites will, so you'll know that it's one of these guys if they're moving quite fast throughout your leaves. When I'm done with the packets, I also just like to chuck them out into my gardens, because if there is any eggs left in there or anything left that could possibly do any good, I want them to be entering into like my flower gardens and my gardens that are outside, and I'm hoping to build up a little collection of predatory mites just in my garden space as well to help out with that. So these I will actually use outside and amongst my outdoor plants, because I'm just adding more bugs into the environment. The way that they work is pretty simple. They're called predatory mites because they are the natural predator for the pests that you might have in your collection. They will roam about on the leaves and they will eat, quite literally just eat, all of the bugs that you don't want in your collection. Some of them do a better job than others. This is the kind that I have chosen because I feel that it works the best when it comes to thrips. The final preventative measure that I'll take for my collection if there are thrips is I'll hang a couple of these up. These are also from the company called Bugs for Bugs. These ones are bright blue, which is a bit different to your regular yellow sticky traps. Apparently, the blue attracts thrips. Must be some sort of science behind it. They're really cool. Peel them open. And inside is this like sticky goo. And once they're trapped in that sticky goo, they definitely cannot get out. So it quite literally just traps them inside. It is so sticky that if you get it on you, you're not getting it off. Like soap, water does nothing. It is so sticky, so sticky. So that's my only warning. Don't put this in at hair height. I say hair height specifically because I would hang it on a plant and then like graze past it. I don't know where my body ends and begins. So I'm constantly getting my hair caught in it. I'm grazing my clothes on it, all sorts of things. And then once that stickiness is on your clothes, like that's just it. That's where it lives now for the next 3 working days. It does not matter how much you scrub it in the shower. It just like does not come off. Maybe someone has a really good solution for how they get the stickiness off, especially in their hair. Especially if you know how to get it out of your hair, please let me know. But yeah, you literally just hang them up, stick your side out, and they will catch a lot of the bugs for you. Good little solution. All right, so the next pest that I want to talk about is the one that I'm dealing with the most right now, which is Spidermites. It's only been this past year that I've really had an influx of Spidermites, and that's since I've moved to this house. So I think pests can really be based on like locations. I did find thrips the other day, found 2 thrips because I went and visited a plant store where I used to live, and I think I brought home thrips on one of the plants that I bought there. So you might see there's some different plants up on my shelf, and that's because the plants that I think got thrips on them have now been evacuated into my pantry where there's no other plants that it can touch because I'm not going back there. But mainly I deal with Spidermites in my collection right now. And Spidermites on my alocasias, which is something that I had not dealt with previously. I know a lot of people said that they were Spidermite magnets, but it just hadn't been my experience to have Spidermites on my alocasia until I moved here. And now I have Spidermites on my alocasias, which is very, very annoying. There are no Spidermites currently in my collection. I fear making that statement, but I truly believe that right now I have managed to get rid of all of the Spidermites right now. And I'm going to tell you how I went about that. So starting off with, this is what Spidermites look like. You might see some webbing as well. So you might see little bits of webbing. I find if you see webbing, that's probably a sign that there's a fair bit of Spidermites on your plants and it's a little bit into a later stage of an infestation. And this can also be what Spidermite damage can look like. So you might not actually find the Spidermites, but you might see this kind of damage. So those are the things that I'm sort of looking for if I think that a plant might have Spidermite damage. I actually find more often that the Spidermite damage is on the older leaves. I don't know if that's common for everyone, but that just seems to be my experience, is that thrips are normally on new leaves and Spidermites are usually on the older leaves. Obviously, first steps, remove the plant from the collection. Separate it any way you can, make sure its leaves aren't touching any other leaves. Great. Next thing that you're gonna do, wash it down once again, wipe down all of its leaves. I also use those neem oil sprays and I wipe down every single one of the leaves with my cloth or my gloves, and I just wipe down every single little crevice that I can get into. Spidermites are really small. If the leaf is just absolutely covered head to toe and has a lot of very visible damage, I might just chop the leaf off as well. I don't always like to do that because the plant can use a lot of the energy from that leaf to sort of repair itself from the fact that it's dealing with Spidermites. So sometimes it is in the plant's best interest to leave the leaf, But there are other times where I think I just want to get rid of as many spider mites as I possibly can, especially if it's a really bad infestation. All I can think is, I don't know if I can remove every single spider mite, and I don't know if this leaf is doing more harm or more good to this plant. For a really long time, this is all I used to get rid of spider mites. It was simply wiping down the leaves with the neem oil and leaving it at that. Another option is also predatory mites, but remember, you can't do predatory mites and the spray. It's an either or. So either you spray it down with the neem oil or you go on with predatory mites. I have in the past sort of combined them. I've started with the neem oil and then I'd waited 4 weeks and then I'd brought the predatory mites in, but you have to wait for this to sort of wash off your leaves. I'll wash the leaves with water, spray them, wipe them down, wait 4 weeks, wash the leaves again, wipe them with just plain water, and then introduce predatory mites. And that seems to be like a really good cycle that you can go through to keep your collection going and keeping it happy, especially if you're just spotting one plant that has spider mites and it's quite bad, but the rest of your collection seems fine. So you can keep the predatory mites in your general collection and just spider mite treat one plant with the spray, and that can sort of create like a good balance within your collection. But don't spray the leaves and then add a sachet, because you're just sending these off to their doom by having it on a plant that has spider mites, by having it on a plant that has neem oil on it. So this is the predatory mite that I usually use for spider mites. Sometimes I'll also combo it with this kind of predatory mite. If you have a plant that's super infested, the bottles are great, but they've got nothing else to eat after the spider mites are gone, and so they'll probably die a lot faster. Whether if you have the sachets, they have a food supply in there, so there's less of them in there, and they won't be able to eat all of the bugs as quickly, but they will survive for a longer period of time and give you coverage for a longer period of time because they have their own food supply and they have eggs. So they will also hatch later on and give you, like, I think they said 6 weeks-ish of coverage. I found that it's probably closer to like 4 to 5 weeks of like real coverage, but that's just because mine aren't in a greenhouse, they're in quite an open setting, so the likelihood that they are going to sort of disperse is more likely. And again, I also just have absolutely no other food sources other than the food packets for them and the spider mites, but once they've eaten all the spider mites, they've only got what's left in the packet to really survive on until some more spider mites show up. Though I will say, even with treating my collection with insecticides, I still, to this day, every now and then will find some predatory mites on a random plant. Just at a random time, I'll have a look at a plant and I'll go, oh, what's that moving around in there? And it's just a random predatory mite that's made its way into my collection. So they are still scurrying about and doing the job, which is great. So they can survive for a really long time. The last time I've actually brought live predatory mites into my room is probably over 4 months ago now. So they've lasted 4 months just running around and eating the predatory, eating the spider mites and the random pests that they found in my collection. If your problem is anything like mine, there's just so many of them. And the thought of wiping down every single leaf of your big trailing plant is impossible. And sometimes you just can't kick it in the butt, and it just keeps coming back and it keeps spreading, and it's spreading really quickly, and you're just feeling really overwhelmed, and you kind of don't know what to do other than just chucking the plants out at this point. Because that's where I was at with my spider mite problem. I was just so overwhelmed. I do think that now that we're coming into autumn, the pest problem is starting to calm down, which I'm really thankful for. But the main solution that I found actually worked for really getting rid of the spider mites quickly and effectively was another insecticide. So this is the product that I'm currently using to get rid of the spider mites in my collection. It is a miticide. It's called Abamectin. And I get it from Flora Magnifica, which is a plant shop online in Australia. It is really toxic. It doesn't come with any labels on it or anything like that. So what I do suggest is Flora Magnifica actually has a link that takes you to a page with all the information on it that tells you about how much you need to add into your water, what you need to do when you're using the product. But overall, I'm gonna put it down because I don't like to touch it. Is you definitely need to wear protective equipment when you're using it. So this one, I'm probably a little bit more loosey-goosey with, and I probably shouldn't be because it does say that you need to wear rubber gloves when you're touching it. And again, I do if I'm going to be actually touching the liquid itself, but for the most part, if I'm just pouring it into the cap and then pouring on, I'm just using my hands. Probably shouldn't. I would say actually use a glove. But for the Miticide, please follow the instructions. So this one, it's poison. It definitely is poison. I mean, they're all poison, but this is definitely poison. This one, when you are pouring it out into the container, when you're mixing it up, when you're spraying, there are a couple of things that it definitely instructs you to do. You need to be wearing gloves. For one, you need to be wearing rubber gloves. So rubber gloves, not these kinds of gloves, because these are porous, which means that the liquid will get through to your hands. You'd be wearing rubber gloves, something that is waterproof. So I can show you my getup and what I look like when I'm taking care of plants using this spray. I dress head to toe so that if it sprays, it doesn't get onto me personally. I don't want it to touch any part of my skin, so I wear gloves. I also wear a mask, and I also wear glasses. And this seems like overkill, but it is also on the instructions that you should be wearing this kind of protective gear when you're using it, because again, it is an insecticide and you shouldn't be breathing these things in. You shouldn't be letting them touch your skin. After I finish, I also thoroughly wash my hands, and usually I just take a full shower afterwards as well so that I don't have any more of it left on my skin. This bottle currently has some of the spray in it. I don't use this bottle for anything else other than this spray, and I'm going to continue to do that. Again, this is not something that I want to spray outside, so I would not spray it on my outdoor plants. I would not spray it on my garden. I would only spray this on my indoor plants. Make sure when you're using it on your plants that you aren't gassing yourself using this plant though. It does say to spray the leaves until they're like physically dripping, but I obviously don't want that landing on my carpet or on my floor or anywhere where I'm going to be sitting. So instead, I don't use these gloves at all. I only use the disposable paper towels for this, and I will drench the paper towels in the spray, and I will walk through and I'll wipe each individual leaf so that it's just on the leaf. It's not being airborne and sprayed into the room, it's just on the leaf. If it again is one of those plants where wiping down each of the leaves is going to be a bit hard for you, I have placed them on the stepping stool just out on my veranda and then just sprayed the plant directly, let it drip dry for a minute, and then took it back inside so that I'm not like spraying it on other plants in the environment outside. I'm just spraying it on that one section of that plant outside on the stool and then bringing it back inside once it's dry. I have seen quite a few different kinds of brands of the Abamectin specifically, so please make sure that you read the instructions for your specific one that you buy and the proportions of water to miticide that you need to use, because I looked up a general guide and it told me a different amount to the one that was actually linked to the Flora Magnifica page. So yeah, please just make sure that you're reading the one specifically for your brand that you have purchased if you don't end up getting the exact same as this one here. I obviously have to wait a few months, but I do want to move back to using my predatory mites in my collection. They'll take a while for the insecticide and miticide to sort of move its way out of my collection and no longer be effective. So the instructions for this one has something along the lines of you spray your leaves once and then leave it for 7 days. After the 7 days, you spray them again and you do the same treatment, wipe them down, all this sort of fun stuff. And then you should be good for, you know, quite a few months. It should last. But after a few months and a few times washing those leaves again, you probably should be good to bring predatory mites back into your collection, which is what I'm attempting to do because I much prefer this method. It is a really effective solution, like don't get me wrong, it is a really good solution to pests. It's just sometimes you need to go a little bit more of a like industrial solution to it. The next pest that I want to talk about is scale. Scale is a really hard one to get rid of. I have only had a couple of experiences with scale in my collection. This is what scale looks like. Really gross. And this is kind of what scale damage looks like, but most of the time if you see scale damage, you see scale. They are not fast moving, they don't like to travel, they sort of find a place in your plant, usually on the stem or like really juicy sections of the plant, and they hunker down and they leave like really awful, like almost like little craters or like little wounds all over your plant. They are awful. And just your typical wiping doesn't really get rid of them. I still use my spray and I wipe them down, but even just hosing your leaf off is not going to get the scale off because the scale is like suctioned on there. You really have to individually wipe each of them off, which makes them a really painful pest to deal with. I also like to use my own little solution here as well. So I will use the neem oil, but I also use a spray solution that I've made that has isopropyl alcohol in it. So this is isopropyl alcohol. It's 64% in this bottle. And I use about a tablespoon of the isopropyl alcohol in this. And then I shake it out. You could probably add some soap in it as well, some like non-scented soap as well, and that could probably be really helpful, but I just use water and isopropyl alcohol, and then I go around and I like scrub every single leaf and like try and really painfully wipe off every single bit of the scale, which again is just such a long process and really painful. So this cast iron plant is currently covered in scale. It's had a problem with scale for a while, and I know that I've been wanting to make a pest treatment video, so I haven't been dealing with it, which is not good, but it does mean that it is absolutely covered, which means you're going to get to see what scale looks like when it is fully infested a plant. I wouldn't let scale sort of take over a plant unless I knew that it was a hardy plant. This is a cast iron plant. It's given that name because it can handle a lot. You have to rub really, really hard to actually get some of the scale off. And every single one of those little brown dots is scale. So I have finished cleaning the leaf of its scale. I think I've got all of the scale. I hope you can see the leaves are really shiny now, super clean. I've gotten all the way into those crevices, all the way down to the stems. You can see where some previous leaves have been chopped off, and that was in the past to try and get rid of scale as well. It's looking a lot happier, a lot healthier. Hopefully it will start sprouting up some new growth now. and I'll just keep an eye on it. What I plan on doing now is adding a bit of my insecticide into the pot, watering it in, and I will probably have another look at it in a week's time to see if any scale has come back. Alright, so the next pest that I want to talk about is mealybugs. This is what mealybugs look like. Arguably the grossest of all of the pests on the table today. Mealybug damage, I find, for me personally, is a little bit harder to notice. I feel like you're going to see the mealybugs more than you're going to notice the damage. When you have mealybugs, the leaves often fall off as well. So you get the yellowing leaves, the crisping leaves, and the leaves falling off, and they're looking yellow and they're looking gross, and that is probably because you have mealybugs. But I often find that I see the mealybugs more than I see the damage because they are so obvious when they're on your plant. And maybe that's just because I don't catch them when they're little. I always catch them when they've really taken over a whole stem and have gotten really, really annoying. Personally, my toxic trait is leaving mealybugs and doing nothing about them. I've definitely done that in the past where I've seen them, I've noted that it has mealybugs, and I've done literally nothing about it. I don't know why. It was just something that I used to do in my collection a lot, where I just sort of ignored that mealybugs existed and let the plant sort of suffer in silence. I feel like the mealybugs don't spread as quickly to other plants. It just, in my experience, they don't spread that quickly. They're quite slow moving. But they are a bit of a pain to completely eradicate from a plant. To actually be free of mealybugs on a plant is quite difficult. And I think it's why I never try. I just go, well, that plant just has mealybugs now. That's just what that plant is. So once again, once you found your mealybugs, you go and you wash the plant leaves off, of course, and you separate it from the rest of the plants in your collection. But then I go in with my isopropyl alcohol spray and sometimes just plain isopropyl alcohol. So usually if it's on a large plant or all over the plant, I will just spray it head to toe in this. I don't actually even bother taking my plants outside when I'm spraying this. So if it is a big plant that has a lot of leaves or a lot of nooks and crannies that can be really hard to get into, I usually just saturate it, completely head to toe, saturate it in my mixture of the isopropyl alcohol spray. Now, if you've never sprayed it on the plant before, if you've never used isopropyl alcohol on the plant before, I would probably suggest spraying it on a small section that you wouldn't mind losing, just in case. Especially if it's a thin-leafed plant. Caladiums are really prone to getting burnt leaves from pretty much any plant product, like the neem oil. It's going to burn your plant. Pretty much anything that you're putting on the plant other than water is going to burn really thin-leafed plants. So just test it on a patch first before you go ahead and start using anything else other than water on it. Give it a little test first just to make sure that it's going to make it through okay. If it looks okay, I spray it completely head to toe in this stuff. If there is a heap of mealybugs, they're really gross, there's a big cluster of them, they're looking nasty, I will get a little Q-tip and I will spray. It's a child lock, so of course I couldn't actually get the lid off. I'll spray. Ooh, I'm getting it all over me. Very different vibe to using the other chemical stuff because I just sort of got it on me and I was like, oh well. So I'll spray a little bit into the cap, dip, 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 and I'll just walk around with a little cotton tip and my cap, and I'll go around and I will place it on top of the mealybug and then sort of wipe them off. You'll know that they're dead because again, it instantly turns red. They're white and then they turn red once you've dabbed it on them and they're no longer walking around and living. Obviously, individual spot checking every single inch of your plant is an absolute pain and a very big time drain, which is why I started making the spray that was like a little bit more diluted, so I didn't have to worry about like just pouring an entire thing of isopropyl alcohol in my plant, which definitely it wouldn't have loved. But this is more effective at actually making sure that you're getting those bugs and getting rid of them effectively. So things like your Hoya linearis or your Hoyas that have those like little crevices or like connecting points, I find it is really effective to go in with the cotton tip and just dab those crevices. They can start off really small. Like mealybugs can be really, really small and really inconspicuous. So it is better to just preventative measure. If your plant has mealybugs, even if you can't see it on that particular crevice, just go through every crevice and give it a little bit of a dab with your isopropyl alcohol and try and get rid of it as best as you can. All right, so the next plant pest that I want to talk about is whitefly. So this is what whiteflies look like. Kind of like mealybugs, you're going to notice the whiteflies more than you're going to notice the damage, but it is obviously going to be impacting your plant's ability to grow new leaves and to be healthy and all those things, because whiteflies do sap suck from your plant as well. So you can again use products like this guy here. You can also spray down the leaves, and I do suggest with whitefly wiping all of the leaves, even if it's just with water, because they lay their eggs onto the leaves themselves. So instead of just using the water and washing them down, I really do like to go in with my gloves. Again, make sure you hot wash them afterwards, but being able to get in there with your glove and really massage the leaf, just make sure that you're getting all of those eggs that are going to be laid onto the leaves. Some of the most effective strategies for whitefly is actually just using sticky traps. So this is the same as the blue one. Open it up and there is a whole bunch of that sticky stuff on the inside. The flies get caught onto it and then you will be getting rid of your whitefly problem. These can be quite big and very obvious in your collection. They stand out a lot and they can look quite ugly. So if you're trying to be a bit more discreet, these are actually my more recent favorite sticky traps. You can get these from Plenty Peeps. So these are really cute. You just put them on the inside rim of your pot. And the yellowness of them obviously is a color that helps to attract those flying bugs around, and once they get stuck on, they can't get back off of the sticky traps. So these are a little bit more discreet. Again, they just go on the inside of your pot. Nice and simple and easy. So those are my basic solutions for whitefly. The final pest that I deal with is fungus gnats. This here is what fungus gnats usually look like. You'll probably notice them more just because like you're swatting them away and they get in your face. I believe they're like the carbon dioxide that you breathe out, and that's why they get like attracted to flying in your face. Both whitefly and fungus gnats do that. So you'll know them. You'll know that they're there if they're in your collection. But fungus gnats are usually in the soil, where the whitefly are usually around your leaves. So that's the main difference. Also, one is white and one is not. So these again are great for hanging around specifically for whitefly, but they do work for fungus gnats as well. I find these are super duper effective for your fungus gnats because they're in the soil and this goes inside of the pot, which is closest to the soil. So it's just like more likely to catch a lot more of your fungus gnats. I have seen a lot of people use a product called nematodes to get rid of their fungus gnats, and I'm sure that is a super effective product. I haven't seen nematodes in Australia. I haven't been able to find it. I know that some people have things like Neem soils as an amendment that you can use that help with fungus gnats as well. Quite honestly, I find that fungus gnats are more of a sign of something rather than a pest, and they will go away on their own once you've sort of solved the problem. So most of the time, if I have fungus gnats, is because there is an area of my collection that doesn't get a lot of air circulation, or there is a plant that's been left sitting in water, or it has like a really dense soil mixture that doesn't get a lot of aeration. So usually if I see that there is fungus gnats, I deal with the plant rather than dealing with the pest, and the pest will usually go away on its own. So I'll just place a sticky trap there and then deal with the plant, because it's more likely that it's a soil problem than it is a pest problem. If it's got like a really sludgy soil, I might actually just completely remove the soil, change it out to a new chunkier soil, empty out the pot and let it dry out completely before the next watering. So if maybe it had a bit of water in the bottom, I will just empty that out, dry it out with a paper towel or a cloth, and then I will leave the plant there, and I will leave a sticky trap and just wait for it to completely dry out before the next watering. It might also tell me that that particular area in my collection is quite stagnant. So it could tell me that maybe we've had a lot of humidity recently and I need to open up a window or pop the fan on for a couple of days. Sometimes I even just take the plant outside for a while, and I find having the plant outdoors on my veranda in like a shaded area, one, there's more predatory bugs out there, but also it's just getting wind, it's getting that breeze, it's circulating, it's drying it out a lot faster, and it just kind of does all the things for me that I need. And I also don't have fungus gnats flying in my face. So honestly, the best solution when I have fungus gnats is to add a sticky trap and then take it outside and then just leave it until the fungus gnats are gone, or until it's next watering, and then I'll bring it back inside once it needs to be watered. All right, so those are all of the plant pests that I planned on going over today. I think overall it is always just best to try and stick to as natural as possible processes and steer away from the insecticides and pesticides and miticides as much as you possibly can, and only use it as a last resort. Not only because you're trying to keep your plants healthy, the soil healthy, your environment around you healthy, but also it can build like pesticide resistant pests essentially. So if you're using a miticide, it may only work for a couple of times or a couple of usages, and then suddenly your spider mites are coming back stronger than ever, and it's because you've sort of built up an immunity to them. I hope you found something useful in today's video, and I hope maybe you learned something new or might try a different way of taking care of any of the pests that you have in your collection. If you have any questions about any of the methods that I've used, or you have any suggestions of some better methods that you could use, I'm always up to hear those in the comments below. But I think that is it for today's video. Hopefully you learned something new, or maybe you've been given the courage to try out a pest treatment that you've been thinking about doing for a while but just weren't quite sure on. I hope everything goes well with your pest problems. If you're watching this, you probably have some pest problems that you're dealing with. So good luck, goodbye, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.